Hi, Jimmy Kerstein, author of The Butcher's Guide to Insider's View, and today I want to show you how to turn a couple of rib half of pork loins into a lovely holiday-ready crown roast of pork. So getting started here, what we want to do is I want to explain what I have here. First of all, this is the rib half of a pork loin. Actually, it's not the rib half. A rib half is what I ordered. And the way the meat markets work nowadays, and the way they used to work when I did it too as well, unfortunately, is although you order a rib half, I did not get a whole half of a rib pork loin. There's about this much in center cut rib chops that's missing that the store will slice and sell as center cut chops while displaying and marketing this half as a rib half of pork loin. Not exactly honest and forthright, but that's just the way it is.
Show us again how much is missing.
There's about this much missing. There's a good 4 inches missing. Anyway, I'm not unhappy with what I bought here. I paid $1.69 a pound for this piece of meat and another piece of meat that I'm going to turn into a crown roast. I paid a little more than $29 for a little over 17 pounds of meat at $1.69 a pound. So it's still a good value. It would have been a better value if I'd have gotten the other half, but I went to a different butcher shop, one I usually go to. It's a chain store, would have given me, because they know me, the entire rib half of the pork loin. Okay, enough about that. We're going to get started here. First thing I want to do, this is the inside of the pork loin. This is the end toward the chuck, and you can see the blade cut there. It looks just like the front of the pork shoulder butt, and that's where that is cut off, that end. First thing I want to do, just like when we do baby backs, is I want to remove this membrane on the middle. And the way you do that is take the point of your knife and cut down to the bone, grab it with a paper towel, and just peel it out. Get a hold of it there. And I find pulling it from the rib end, the shoulder end toward the loin end, it seems to tear off more easily. There we go. We're ready to go. So we're going to flip it over. The first thing I want to do is I want to remove this top blade, because obviously that's not going to be, you can see there's a whole separate muscle on top here that's not going to be part of the center cut pork loin. So what I want to do to start with is I'm just going to take my knife, I'm going to get underneath this flap here and come back under the bone, and we're going to pull that cap off, including the bone here. If you can see that real easily. You just want to get underneath the fat. You don't want to really cut into it. It's more separating the meat and pulling it off through the natural seam. So you can see when we get this off what we have. And basically what I have here is a piece of the cap along with the bone. And what I'm going to do is I'll remove the bone. And we're going to get probably 1.5 pounds, 2 pounds of sausage out of that when we're done. So that part is done. And now what we have is a uniform piece that's uniform in size from end to end. Now we want to work on the inside of it here. First thing you want to do, there are bones, and he did a really nice job of trimming off the chine bone. This comes with a chine bone on. You want to ask the butcher to cut that off so that you can cut between the ribs when you serve it. And then frequently on the inside here there are bones, what are called the feather bones. They're kind of a thin backbone through the middle. And I just have a little piece of them down here, so we're going to grab a hold of that, trim that off. And you can feel them, there's nothing there. We'll throw that away. And then the other thing we want to go back and do is there's little buttons here, is what we call them, where the end of the chine bone. You just want to slip your knife under those and cut those off. The reason you take these off is just going to enhance the eating experience. You know, they're going to be little bite-sized, or not bite-sized, they're really unpleasant bites of bone when you serve the roast. And so without digging in too deep, you can kind of feel them here. We're going to go through and we're going to stick our knife under and pull all those out. You can see them in a row here. The idea is the only bone we really want left in here is the rib bone. And then after it's cooked, we'll be able to go in and serve the roast by cutting between those bones. So these little extra bones in here, we're going to go through and remove all of those. They're kind of at the base of the rib bone. You can see them here. Sometimes they may be somewhat attached a little bit, so you just stick your knife under and you can pull those out. See, there's not much to them, but you can see how it's going to enhance eating of this rib roast without having these in here. And again, you don't want to get carried away and get in there too deeply. That's part of the rib bone there. Well, that one, we'll get that out too. Kind of missed the chine down here, so this one's a little less exposed and a little less deep. Okay, so we've got those removed. Then I want to kind of size it up, and I notice here at the end there's a half of a bone. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove that bone. Stick your knife between the natural seam, get underneath it, and you can just pull that right out. Now you can see we have rib bones all across there. Next part we're going to do is we're going to French these bones, and if you notice, one of the advantages of getting the rest of these bones in the center is you get bones more of equal length, and these are a little shorter, and you notice as it goes toward the chuck end, the bones flatten out, so that it would really be a prettier presentation without these bones, but it's still going to look nice. And honestly, this is the best eating part of the pork loin. So now what we're going to do is we're going to French the bones, and to do that, we're going to take off about 1.5 inches all down the back, cut down to the bones, and slide your knife underneath. And what we're going to do here now is pull this off. And again, this is a lot of great sausage material there. We're going to go ahead while we're doing it. This is a fatter piece. And trim up the inside of this a bit, and you feel the fat on top here. We're going to trim that up a bit too. Just kind of follow the contour of the meat. Trim it up nicely. Now what we need to do to French this is we need to go between the bones, and you can see how that's a pretty easy process. The bones are round, so what you want to do is do it from 2 directions if you can, so you get kind of tight to the bone. Pull those out. And again, these little pieces, these are just little lean pieces of meat that'll make a lovely sausage. Sausage is a really easy product to make. It's really just ground pork and seasoning. Sometimes people are a little intimidated by making sausage, but they really shouldn't be. Everyone makes a good meatloaf. It's not unlike making a meatloaf with different seasonings. So as you can see, as we go across this and down, we're Frenching these bones, and you want to clean them up pretty nice, you know, because they're going to be the decorative element to your roast when you serve it. The other thing this roast has, or between these two roasts, we have nearly 20 rib bones, so you can generously serve for $29. We're going to serve 20 people a holiday roast. Let's get that other one off there. This is kind of an awkward one at the end here. We're going to go back and turn it over and clean off the inside of that a bit too. This is that little flat bone. Like I said, if you'd grab just the ones out of the center, and we may when we do this. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to be able to, because of these longer pieces, we're going to be able to make a nice circle. So we may, in doing this, we may cut off that last rib bone just for aesthetics, just to make it look pretty. So we're going to do the other one, and then I'm going to show you how to tie them both together. Okay, so now we have both of our rib half pork loins. We have the membrane removed, the little buttons removed, the feather bones removed, and then we've taken the cap off, and I've gone ahead and boned that out, and we've got about almost 4 pounds of nice pork tongue that's going to make a lovely sausage. Be great to make a stuffing to put on the inside, and I'll leave a recipe at the end of the video for a simple fresh pork breakfast sausage with fresh grated ginger and fresh sage leaves. So what I've done here, we have 2 rib pieces of pork loin, and off each end, off the chuck end, where this bone is kind of flat, I've gone ahead and taken a chop off either end, and these are like the best eating chops in whole pork loin. They're really ugly, but they're really tender. They're going to grill up nicely. I'm going to season those up with a little rib rub and put them on the grill probably for tomorrow's dinner. The other thing I've done at the loin end, the lean end of the rib half, is there's a little, because it was cut on a bandsaw, there's a little half bone that doesn't quite make the rib. So I've remove that. And just to even it up, I'm going to take another little thin slice off of this too. And this, of course, you could cook it as a nice little boneless chop. What we're going to do is we're just going to throw it in the sausage. So we're going to get started. We're going to turn this 2 lovely pieces of meat into a crown roast of pork. And to do that, what we want to do is turn it into a circle. And we need to join both ends together. And for that, I'm going to use a little used tool that probably isn't in most of the meat markets now. This is a butcher's roast needle, and it's basically just a big sewing needle. It really comes out just at the holiday times to make a crown roast of pork for the guys that still know how to do it. And summertime, it makes a pretty decent ice pick, you know, if you want to buy one. So what we're going to do is we're going to go underneath the first bone and come through and come up on the other side of that bone. And we're going to thread the butcher twine through there, pull it out of the needle, and then we're going to tie a butcher's knot. And I have a video too to teach you how to do this as well. It's a pretty easy knot. If you wanted, you could just tie your basic good cinch knot. The idea is just to tie it tight. The other way to do this is they'll make a circle and they'll just wrap string around and around it. That's really kind of the same kind of people that do that are the same people who leave the buttons in and use a bandsaw to cut between the ribs. The only real bone we have here is just the simple rib bone. So this is a boneless roast with rib bones. It's going to be really elegant and easy to serve. So now we're going to take our needle, and on the non-bony part of the roast here, we're going to come back a little further and go out into the roast a little further to thread the twine. Get both sides through there. And with this too, we're going to want to be careful when we tie this knot that we don't cinch it down too tightly and pull just till it pops, pull through the meat, and then we'll have a big rip in our meat. So what we've done now, we've got both ends of the rib, one end tied together. What we're going to want to do is bring it around and match up the other 2 ends. And there's really a couple ways to do this. The easiest way I found for me is to hold it on end. It's easier to pull both of those pieces tight. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip it over here because it's easier that way. I'm going to go ahead and do my roast needle piece just because it's easier to do this a bit ahead of time. It's nice if you have an extra set of hands to hold this and you don't have to work quite so hard at it. But we're going to come underneath again. Since we're going the wrong direction here, we need to do this end first. And then when we bring it around and bring it up, and we push both these sides together, and again we're going to just come under the first bone, pull the string out. So we've got, move the roast needle, and then like I said, it's easy to, we'll get the roast knot started here because it'll be easier to pull it tight. The idea is you want to pull both these pieces tightly together, and if you use the weight of the roast to do that, it's a lot easier. You can see how nicely those go together doing it that way. And then we'll do the same thing through the meaty part of the roast. Thread our needle, and we'll do the same thing. We'll come back a little bit in the roast and then out further into the roast to get enough hunk of meat there to make it work well. Remove the string from the needle, and pushing down, and you can see how nicely both those halves come together with the weight of the roast, and it's just a lot easier than struggling and trying to work it together. I remember which old butcher taught me this trick, but it's a good one. Anyway, put our string there. There we have it. A beautiful crown roast of pork. You want to roast this in the oven about 375 to an internal temperature of 140. I like to season mine with a porchetta seasoning. It's a real flavorful, kind of a spicy, citrus, salty, sagey, rosemary mixture, and I'll leave a recipe at the end of the video for that as well. Go ahead and make some sausage out of your sausage for breakfast, and make a stuffing and put that in after you want to serve it at the table, and just simply slice between the bones and you're ready to go. Have a happy holiday.